Hey guys, sorry, it's been a while. I'm slowing down for the year, so I've been posting less frequently, and I'm also still recovering from a cold. But anyways, I did a interview with Jack Hughes, the founder of the Northern Film Orchestra, earlier in September, and I'm just now finishing the editing, and I just wanted to say before I show you the interview that I was really glad to feel like I could relate to someone else who started a business that is related to music but doesn't actually require them to compose music for film, which is what I thought I originally wanted to do, like, full-time all the time when I first started. And after hearing his story, I felt really inspired to, number one, share this with more people. I had learned about Jack's journey a little bit before the interview, and I suggested that we put together a little video sharing the lessons he's learned and how his path from a composer struggling to find work led him to found an orchestra and collaborate with composers all over the world. I personally relate so much. This is the interview. I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for sticking around. What was your life like before NFO, and who were you at that time? What were your goals?
So when I started Northern Film Orchestra, I was 25, and I left when I finished my university degree. I was just about to turn 21. So I had a 4-year gap between those two. But then I never really used to think too far ahead in terms of professional ambitions. So then I went to university and did music for film and games as my degree. And that was a Bachelor of Science course, so it was a bit more technology focused than sort of straight composition. So that was 3 years. So that would have taken me till about age 20 then. And I think at that point, my goal was literally just to be a freelance composer or producer in some way or another. And so they're sort of the early chapters of the journey, really. I kind of just kept hitting roadblocks, essentially, and that forced me to come up with a new idea or something new to kind of focus on. So there's a few sort of challenges, I guess, with finding consistent work as a composer in those first few years, basically. And always, I'd go through a phase where I'd get a couple of projects, then they'd finish, and it kind of fizzle away again. And at that age, I wasn't really good at just getting consistent things lined up. So that started me to think that I had to come up with something else that maybe isn't just being a composer, essentially.
After you finished university and you had these skills under your belt and you were starting to freelance, what was the moment when you realized that you could do something different and that became clear to you? Can you explain your usher job and how you realized?
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I moved down to Brighton. I'm from Manchester and I live there now, which is where the orchestra base is based. I did a few months there, basically trying to figure things out, and then for one reason or another I had to move back up north. That meant I had to find a new job and things, so I got a job in a concert hall called the Stoller Hall, which is where we do all our orchestra recording now. And just a bit of background with that one. I hadn't really had much exposure with orchestras or classical music up to that point. I was mainly more interested in orchestras because of film soundtracks, really, but I'd never really seen one in person. So working at the Stoller Hall was a way to, I guess it furthered my musical education, and that it exposed me to orchestras in loads of different forms, but also chamber music and sort of solo piano and just loads of classical music, I guess, and contemporary classical. And I think it was kind of opening my eyes as to the different sort of elements of music, in terms of the obviously I'd spent so much on production and making things electronic up till then. It was nice to sort of go completely the other side and see at the classical end music that's just acoustic only exists when it's being performed live, to kind of see that side of it. Alongside sort of that timeline, then I also got a job doing the same thing in a different concert hall. This was the one that's in the conservatoire in Manchester, which is called the Royal Northern College of Music. So I was doing the same job at two places, but concert hall usher, working on various events. I guess the main sort of turning point for me then was, as I said, I was finding it very difficult to sort of get consistent projects. as a composer. And one thing I tried to do was like revamp my portfolio in 2019, I think it was. Yeah, classic one. So I thought I'll like come up with some new tracks, a new page on the website with like some new colour scheme and everything. Maybe that will help. So I wrote these pieces, and then I actually asked. There was a group of like string musicians in the conservatoire where I was working, and they offered a service where you could like do a recording session with them, basically. So that was my first time ever working with musicians. Like proper musicians on my own music. It was the first time hearing like my music played back to me. So I had about, I think it was 6 songs or something that I was going to use for the new portfolio. And we went to do the session one day in a church, and we had a quartet, and I think we did it over like 5 or 6 hours or something. And then I just remember like feeling really empty actually when it was over, and this feeling of like just wanting to do it again, really. Like it was so amazing. Yeah, just sort of seeing it come together, and I guess the build up and everything. Alongside it, about a month or 2 before that, I'd started working at a sound design studio as well. Because sound design was like another thing I kind of did alongside composing, just because it was a way to get more money in. And the guy I was working for who owned the studio, he actually suggested, why don't I think about like trying to come up with some kind of service that sort of like expanded on the session I'd done with the string players. And I think that was the inciting incident, really, like doing that session and just feeling like that, having a couple of weeks to sort of mull it over and think like, where do I want to go from here? And then from that, I basically just launched full speed into, all right, we're going to start an orchestra and we're going to like do a recording session. And obviously I have to like build a website for the orchestra and all of this. So that was sort of the inciting instant. That would have been October 2019, and then we did the first recording in January 2020. So it wasn't really very long between like having the idea and then just going ahead and doing the first session. But even in that, there was so many like good fortune, like good luck sort of elements. The main one being that I was able to find enough composers who would like share the cost of doing a full like day's recording. So that would have been like the biggest hurdle, I suppose, at the start.
Can you describe the early days of NFO? Like, what was it like to gather everyone together, space, get all the recording, get the right people?
I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot of like new things all at once. But I think I was kind of taking it in my stride. But yeah, it was more just. I think early on I did decide the things I definitely didn't want to get involved with, and that was fixing the players. I knew like there's no way I would be able to find everyone and email them all myself and like sort that out and then ensure that it's like the right balance of people. So it was that, but then it was also the technical and recording side. Even though I'd like to think I have a decent sort of technical background, I know I'm not like that good at the engineering side of things to sort of figure that one out. So I guess being able to early on say, well, I'm not going to focus on them, and I'm going to ask someone who I know would do it really better than I could was sort of a good decision. But a lot of it was just sort of scrambling to make it happen, really. I had to obviously book the venue. That wasn't too much of a problem. Then I remember like when we were trying to figure out the mic situation, actually I tried to get like a sponsorship package from DPA, whether they'd like let us use the microphones for a day, and then we'd film everything, and then try and use that as promotion. I remember trying to sort that out, but it didn't sort of happen. I think the musicians as well was probably the other bit to kind of coordinate, because obviously I had to find enough players enough musicians to share a full 6-hour session, but they each needed to have like roughly the same ensemble, so the musicians could kind of be the same. And it's just interesting looking back because the different types of music throughout the day were just so wildly different as well. But so that was quite a big aspect of it, I think. I do actually have, if we go over here, I've got some of my own notebooks with like the handwritten notes. I'll just grab them out one sec.
Cool.
Yeah, I always remember I had these like two red notebooks where I kind of like did everything. So yeah, there we go. So that's actually the notes from that recording session. Oops.
Whoa.
The string quartet one. It might be back to front because of the way the camera picks it up. But yeah, you can see there you've got like the names of the different tracks and like the notes I've made just for myself, because I can't actually read like notation very well. So I had to just do my own do my own little notes and sort of put like what bar is like how many seconds in and things like that, just so I could kind of understand where we were at. And then, yeah, literally the next page is like a big list of composers to like cold message
Nice.
to like ask him for the first session. So, like, for example, Josh Doling, he was one of the guys. Alex Proudlock was one of the guys. Who else is on that one? And even there, I've got notes saying like, yeah, he's got 60 piece plus harp, difficult underlined, so it means the music was going to be difficult. So it kind of shows a bit of the process there. Just making a big list of people that I had to speak to. I think I made a Facebook post just saying like who'd be interested in doing an orchestra session, and then like I went through everyone who commented saying like I'm interested or who liked, basically. I think that's what that page was.
Wow.
So yeah, it's quite fun looking back. And this would have all been like in this. Yeah, all these notes would have been made in like the October, November, December sort of time period.
So your startup days.
Yeah, literally trying to write the mission statement, like Northern Film Orchestra, like what. Yeah, we are a premier session orchestra in Manchester, specialising in music for film, TV, and games. So this is when I was trying to talk to people about like really being all in and like proper going for something when you want to actually like try an idea, because it didn't even exist. Like I'm saying, we're a premier session orchestra. It's like we hadn't even done the first session there. I'm just trying to like conjure in my head, I guess, like what the vision is, like what we're trying to aim for, which I think is quite important.
When did your interest in making orchestral recording sessions accessible to more composers become a thing?
I think it was probably after doing my string quartet one, just realising that it is still. So I think part of the reason why NFO kind of worked out the way it did is because I don't really come from the traditional classical background, because I like don't really know notation and things. So I like approached it as like what service would I want? Like someone who would maybe be a bit intimidated by the idea of recording with an orchestra. And I think doing that string quartet session and like as I say with like my own sort of shorthand notes that I had to create to like know where I was in the track when we were recording. I just realised there's a lot of sort of barriers where if you haven't maybe done a certain degree program, or like if you haven't been exposed to like learning piano when you're young versus learning guitar, for example, it's like two branches of the same tree, but one is like, you know what I mean, a lot more favourable maybe to like working with an orchestra. So I just realised that there were all these kind of barriers, and I just thought that it'd be great to have something where it didn't really matter which musical background you were from. It was just the same sort of level of accessibility, really, and that there wasn't going to be any sort of anything holding people back on maybe like the technical side of like the music, like the score preparation or orchestration. And I figured as well that if there's people like me out there, like producers and people. So I think a lot of people maybe come from the like electronic music and sort of like production world into film music as well, versus like the more classical roots. I think it's good to have a service that caters to those guys just as equally.
Yeah, I remember during my quartet session feeling like, oh, this is not as intense as I thought it was going to be, because Melvin was there like talking to me, and I don't know, maybe it was like the sound of his voice or something, but I was like, oh, like this can be a chill place where we're just getting my music done, like it's fine. But
absolutely. I think it can definitely be a very fun experience, but I think definitely I think the first experience a composer maybe has of working like with an ensemble or orchestra recording, I think is important to sort of make them just have a fun time, have an enjoyable experience rather than a stressful one. So I think it sort of opens their mind then in terms of like, this is kind of what being a composer is about, you know what I mean? Like getting people to play your music, I think is like a nice full circle moment. Like, because obviously samples are amazing, but it's totally different when you have like a room full of people playing it. So I think, like giving people a positive first time experience of that is like one of the best things we can do, really. So hopefully it like inspires them to, maybe make more sort of daring music, I guess, like take more creative risks because they know that the musicians will make it work.
Looking back, what is the greatest lesson that you've learned?
Yeah, it's funny looking back. I think if anything, it was that we maybe overestimated how long it would take for us to hit certain milestones. We actually like hit those milestones way sooner than we thought. And I think we didn't really have a plan we didn't really have a plan in place for that side of things because we were assuming that it would take ages. So I think maybe having a plan that maybe fits both outcomes. Like plan A, what if it takes a long time to get to these milestones? And then plan B, what if actually it takes much shorter than we think? Maybe might have helped us. Because there's a lot of things that I didn't really, I didn't think would be an issue for quite some time, so maybe didn't do the research early on that would have been good to maybe solve some challenges that we had. So I'd say that's maybe a good lesson to take from it, and definitely for like composers plotting out their future career development. Like if you have those goals or milestones that you're working towards, think about what's the knock-on effects if it happens much quicker than you anticipated. For example, let's say you graduate and then within 2 years you end up landing like a huge feature or something like that. You're gonna need to get an accountant and like know about like taxes. Like what if you've suddenly got all this money, and being thrown your way? I would say, because I think naturally people maybe we sort of have that negativity bias where we don't assume that things might work out really well, so we maybe don't make the plan for it.
What does your life look like right now?
So I do still write a lot of music. Yeah, I mean, I kind of am just a natural multitasker at heart, really. Like I find it hard to just stay on one track. But I currently lecture at a university teaching music for film and sound for film. So I do that 2 days a week part-time. And then alongside that, I do sound design and composition for film or like whatever the project is. So at the moment, I've got one like short film project that I've been working on for a few months. And then in the past, I've kind of stopped doing it a bit now, but I used to do like production with artists as well. So like working with singer-songwriters and recording them. Like I produced an EP for an artist who came out a few months ago. So NFO has never really been full-time up to now. I think it's kind of what we're working towards. But I think also for me, the sort of big picture plan was to try and be a composer in my own right alongside it. Because I figured that it might actually be a good way to springboard the orchestra if I suddenly got a larger project that had the budget to use the orchestra. I just figured that could be a good thing to sort of helping us move forward. At the moment I'm doing the portfolio revamp again. Actually, right now I'm writing some more music, and then because I don't have a personal website for my music at the moment, so get new tracks, put them on SoundCloud, and make a new website and things. I think long term I would like to get to a point where it's mostly full time with NFO, but then the time I'm not working on the orchestra is like composing and doing things like that, really.
Yeah, I relate so much to having to do multiple things. Like I'm the same. Like I'm composing, and then I'm teaching, and then I'm like creating content and things like that. I think they all kind of like feed into each other, and like for you as well, like the music that you write, like maybe you watch something at a recording session one day and it sparks your interest in like orchestration technique or something, and then you try it out, and then maybe you're on a short film and you get to use that technique, and they can all like help you grow as a composer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one good thing for me, obviously coming from like a non-classical background, but then having so much exposure now to orchestral material, it has sort of like changed the way I'd maybe approach writing certain types of music, but also mixing too. Like I've been able to, because we offer like mixing as one part of the service for NFO. Like it's using myself or my business partner Simeon who do the mixes. So we've been able to amass quite a lot of mixing experience now on orchestral material, which I think is like pretty cool, really, just because I feel there can't be that many people like in the world, and definitely not in the UK, sort of getting to do that often. So it's like I've been able to apply like a lot of the things I learned in college and in university, and since then I've been able to like further that and apply it in like an orchestral context, which I think has been like probably the biggest benefit for me that was like unintended, because I never really thought, oh, what if we end up mixing all this orchestral stuff like originally when I started. But I think that's given me the most, I think, and I can really see like looking back at old music that my production and the mix and like the way things are sounding now is like come on so many levels, I think, since I started NFO, really.
I relate to that with my communication skills, I guess. Like it was like an unexpected thing that improved.
Yeah.
Me being an outsider and starting from zero, like in 2019, like composing
Hmm.
on, a DAW for the first time, I really had no choice but to post content about what I do. I knew no
Yeah.
one in the industry. So
Mm.
as a result, I got better at writing, copywriting, and just communicating ideas in general, which of course makes collaborating with directors better, makes marketing better,
Hmm.
and building a community better. So I think in a lot of ways, your time with NFO has done that for you as a composer.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think there's whatever path you take, if you're sort of fully committed, there's all these like unexpected benefits that you get that are maybe like to the side of sort of the main thing, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Like I don't know if you've ever played Skyrim, the game,
I'm
before.
familiar with Skyrim. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like when you level up your character, there's like all these like trees, and you can like choose where to put your points. And I kind of see it as like that. Really, it's like you're gonna whatever way you go in life, like you're gonna level up. But I think you kind of get to choose like what skills get more attention than others. And yeah, like doing a project like NFO and carrying it through to where we are now, it's like topped up a lot of points on these other trees that I maybe like wouldn't have gone anywhere near. Yeah, like knowing about paying tax and like obviously having to deal with an accountant would be one that's like a good skill that's applicable in like a lot of areas. But also just like general marketing, I suppose, and just like knowing like a layman's amount of SEO and all these different parts that come with like promoting a website and things. Yeah, it's forced me to like at least learn a bit of it rather than just like knowing nothing, if you know what I mean. And same with like the blog as well, like writing our blog articles. So that'd be one thing I'd say to people if they are thinking about starting some kind of music related business, is that it's probably worth doing. Like it probably will make you a better composer as well, even if it's not even related to composing, because it'll help. It'll make you better at all the things around writing music. I would say that like makes your life easier. So there are a lot of sort of unintended benefits.
What would you say
Mm-hmm.
to the composers who feel frustrated that they feel like they have to do a bunch of different things? Like, I know some composers who absolutely don't want to create content or, put themselves out there in that way. They just want to do music. They don't want to
Yeah,
do, all these things. What would you say to someone like that?
I mean, ideally, kind of find someone that you're friends with who doesn't mind posting and see. I'd say like try and team up with them maybe. Like I'm a big believer in like collaboration. I don't think composers maybe utilize it enough. Like being a duo or like a trio or like a little sort of squad of composers. So I think you can maybe go that route if you really don't want to like show your face. But if you can't do that, and if it still just has to be you yourself putting out content, I reckon just try and turn it into a game. I would say, and try and approach it from like more of a playful side, and it might be less scary, perhaps. And you could like just like give yourself really small and simple like starting tasks and kind of build on it from there, basically. And if you can find a way to like make gamify it or set yourself little challenges, I think that's probably a better way. I know people do that. They'll say like they define some like weird parameters for no, I'm going to make a piece like this kind of thing, and then just record a video. I think things like that might be a good place to start, because again, you don't really have to maybe talk to the camera. You can just use like captions and then do like screen capture or whatever. So yeah, so there's always a way around it. I think if you don't like sort of showing your face, like I'm not super into putting myself out there. I just know that I don't really have a choice. Like, I'm going to say, oh, I want to start an orchestra and make it into this huge thing, and I can't then also say, oh, I don't want to go on camera when it's needed. Something I've thought about a lot recently, just because I turned 30 like 2 weeks ago. So I've like now hit that milestone. I can look back on my whole 20s and sort of think, all right, what happened there? What can we sort of learn from it? But I went to this networking event a couple of weeks ago and was chatting with people who were like 21 and that kind of age. And I was just saying that like I think the best thing is just to kind of embrace the fact that it's going to be a bit chaotic and kind of just try loads of different things out in those early years, and sort of see what the things you like doing are, and see what things that also you sort of have a more of a natural, like a natural talent for. So I definitely say like give yourself room to experiment and try loads of different things out, because I feel like when you say the word path, like it's almost like you have to like find the path that you're on. It's not like you're just automatically on the path. It's like you start in the forest where there's no path at all, and you have to like get your way out of the trees and find your way onto like the main path, really. So I think you only kind of do that by just like blindly putting one foot in front of the other. But I'd also say like maybe more of a practical one is actually to not let the influences of people around you kind of deter you pursuing that path. And what I mean by that is like, you're going to see a lot of your friends that you went to school with maybe going on nice holidays and having like a nice car and settling down and all this stuff and like better clothes and all of that. I think you just have to ignore all of that and not let it deter you and not sort of feel like you're behind, because like if you're choosing music or being a composer or any like creative things, then naturally it's going to be like a proper rough and sort of scramble in those first few years. And I think where a lot of people go wrong is they maybe hit 25 and they think, oh, I've been out of uni for 4 years now. And it's like, I don't really feel like I'm that far ahead or like moving towards something. And they look around their peers and they think, oh, well, he's got, you know what I mean? He's got a nice job. He's like just buying a new car or he's going on holiday or whatever. And then you think, oh, I'll just quit music then and just go and get an office job or something. I think unfortunately that's why like a lot of people, like they can't get through that initial sort of barrier. I think if you can push through that and maybe make it to like 25, 26, 27, then you'll find that things start to like come around for you and things will start to happen then. Definitely when I look at like the people I studied with at university, like and sort of seeing the ones that continue pursuing it and seeing the people that dropped off, it seems like that would have been the main reason. And then obviously you've got like other outside pressure with like family members or parents or other voices who may say what they say with your best interest at heart, but might not actually be like, yeah, the right advice for you if you were like super dead serious in terms of making it work. And then it just comes down to like deciding, are you serious enough? Is this really what you want? Like, do you just, you know what I mean, are you willing to go through the pain to get the rewards at the end? Or are you more, you know what I mean, just knowing yourself, like, are you that way inclined, or does maybe having more of a stable sort of lifestyle, is that more important to you maybe? And I guess you can't really learn that without just living your life and sort of seeing how you feel about things. I suppose that would be my advice really. But also embrace the chaos as well. Is that my favourite little slogan at the moment? I think it's going to be chaotic whatever path you take. So you might as well just like ride the wave rather than sort of like trying to control where things are going too much.
Yeah, I love that advice. I also live by embrace the chaos.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Especially in the 2020s, it should just be like the life motto for society at the moment.